Tuesday, the January 6th commission hearing began, where Democrats and the mainstream media will continue to do what they've done every single day this entire year since January 6th, and that is complain about the mostly peaceful protest that day and concoct conspiracy theories about what really happened. It's being hailed as a bipartisan commission because two supposed Republicans are on it. Liz Cheney, the infamous neocon, the daughter of Darth Cheney, and Adam Kinzinger, a never-Trumper, who will henceforth be called Congressman Karen because, well, he cried during this opening statement.
You guys may, individually feel a little broken. You guys all talk about the effects you have to deal with, and, you talk about the impact of that day. But you guys won. You guys held. Democracies are not defined by our bad days. We're defined by how we come back from bad days.
If you live in Northern Illinois and this loser is your congressman, just know that next year for the midterms, Catalina Lauf, this beautiful and intelligent, articulate millennial, is primarying him. So be sure to vote for her. Congressman Karen wasn't the only one who cried, however. Adam Schiff also broke down into tears, just like he did during Trump's impeachment.
Because if we're no longer committed to a peaceful transfer of power after our elections, if our side doesn't win, then God help us. If we deem elections illegitimate merely because they didn't go our way rather than trying to do better the next time, then God help us. And if we're so driven by bigotry and hate that we attack our fellow citizens as traitors, if they're born in another country or they don't look like us, and God help us. But I have faith because of folks like you.
One of the key witnesses, police officer Harry Dunn, also could barely hold back tears while he was probably perjuring himself with this nonsense.
I'm a law enforcement officer, and I do my best to keep politics out of my job. But in this circumstance, I responded. Well, I voted for Joe Biden. Does my vote not count? Am I nobody? That prompted a torrent of racial epithets. One woman in a pink MAGA shirt yelled, "You hear that, guys? This voted for Joe Biden." Then the crowd, perhaps around 20 people, joined in screaming, "Boo!
It wasn't just one person, he says, it was 20. And of course his body camera footage, which would verify whether or not this incident actually did occur or not, hasn't been released. Even though the body camera footage of other police officers from that day have been released, showing them being assaulted, which was wrong, of course. But no footage from the body camera footage or anybody's cell phone footage, which was covering the entire incident for the entire duration of the mostly peaceful protest, showed anything like that happening at all. Officer Smollett then testified that he cried because people called him names.
As the afternoon wore on, I was completely drained, both physically and emotionally. I sat down on a bench in the rotunda with a friend of mine who was also a black Capitol police officer and told him about the racial slurs I endured. I became very emotional and began yelling, "How the blank could something like this happen? Is this America?" I began sobbing. Officers came over to console me.
Listen, maybe somebody did call him names and hurt his feelings, and if that's the case, then he's not even fit to be a security guard at the mall, let alone be stationed at the Capitol protecting the members of Congress. Of course, the liberal media industrial complex won't show the countless clips of white Black Lives Matter supporters harassing black police officers using racial slurs when they're trying to protect local communities from being burned down by the Black Lives Matter terrorists. And while not a single Democrat member of Congress has condemned the endless violence at the hands of the Black Lives Matter movement, leaving a bunch of dead bodies in their wake, not to mention $2 billion worth of damage in cities across the country, one of the key witnesses at the January 6th Insurrection Commission kept referring to the mostly peaceful protesters who went to the Capitol that day as terrorists. Perhaps the only person who didn't cry was Officer Fanone. He's that cop who's covered in neck tattoos, has that crazy look on his face, and he's on CNN once a week telling the same stories about what a hero he was.
What makes the struggle harder and more painful is to know so many of my fellow citizens, including so many of the people I put my life at risk to defend, are downplaying or outright denying what happened. I feel like I went to hell and back to protect them and the people in this room. But too many are now telling me that hell doesn't exist or that hell actually wasn't that bad. The indifference shown to my colleagues is disgraceful.
I give it a 90% chance that by Christmas, he comes out with a book, January 6th, How I Single-Handedly Stopped the Insurrection. Meanwhile, MSNBC is worried that Americans haven't heard what happened on January 6th.
What I'm most fearful of is that there are way too many Americans that won't watch this hearing in progress, that won't take just a few minutes out of their time to listen to these police officers and understand what actually happened that day.
Worried they won't watch, eh? Why should they? It's literally all that cable news has covered every single day for the last 6 months.
Are you still talking about the insurrection? Yes. I'm gonna keep talking about it.
And guess who Officer Smollett's lawyer is? It's Mark Zaid, the same lawyer who represented the whistleblower, whose name you're not allowed to mention on YouTube or it's a violation of the terms of service and they'll censor the video, who kicked off the impeachment sham. The same lawyer who has an affinity for watching preteen Disney girls. You may recall that 2 years ago I exposed him for his strange YouTube viewing habits after I was tipped off about them by a reporter from the Washington Times. And I saved an archive of his YouTube channel, an archive of his website, which linked to that YouTube channel. And after I exposed him and the screenshots and the archive links went viral, of course, he unliked those videos. And some people were saying, well, maybe he has kids and they were just watching, YouTube on his channel. No. He has admitted that he doesn't have kids and that he goes to Disney World by himself. The same guy who bragged on Twitter about getting security clearances for, well, let's just say, some of the most evil people who walk the face of the earth. This tweet is real, by the way. You know that I save all of the receipts, and you can look it up for yourself if he hasn't deleted it by now, and even if he did, of course, there's an archive of it that I saved in the Wayback Machine. The rabbit hole goes really deep, you guys, which is why you should get my books in paperback, because that's my best research, where everything is archived and sourced in extreme detail. So get them in paperback from Amazon.com or download the ebook from any of the major ebook stores. And of course, there's a link to the paperback listing down in the description below. So click it and head on over there and check them out.